support manager, and I lead up projects for catering facilities management. Some of those projects are new procurement contracts for food and water, and all the other associated contracts that require for a catering service. We also design the menus, and we link with other local authorities, etc., to information gather. Linda, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Linda Quinn. I'm the Senior Food Safety Advisor for Catering FM Services. My role covers multiple disciplines to include health and nutrition, food safety, and the coordination of medical diets. I also link in with other projects that are going on under Gillian's remit.
Hi, I'm Jean Miller. I'm a project coordinator. One of my roles is to take the menu from the beginning through to the end. That is just part of my job. There's loads of different sections within that, but that's probably one of the most complicated in between the menu and the food for life, and that's part of my remit.
Yeah, introduction. So I'm Stephen Sawers. I'm Head of Facilities Management for Glasgow City Council, and sort of got quite a wide remit across the council in terms of the size and scale of the operation. So we look after primarily all cleaning and catering. We've got 3,500 staff who do multiple disciplines across catering, cleaning, school cross patrols, city centre attendants, receptionists, all that type of stuff. So quite a wide remit, but probably front and centre of that is our facilities management within the school estate. And I know we're here to talk about school meals, so that is pretty much one of the biggest parts of the role. So whilst it is a wide role, certainly most of the time it's taken up with looking after the catering function, which is supported by the team that I know have already introduced themselves earlier on. So delighted to be here again. I know it's been a while, Leanne, since we did this, so it's a great opportunity to speak with you tonight and also hear your own questions and comments, which we'll come on to at the end of the slides. So I've got about a 10-minute presentation, Leanne, which I know you'll bring up in a minute. I'll certainly ask my team to pitch in with various parts of those slides, but if you can allow us just to go through the slides, and then at the end of that sort of 5-10 minutes, we'll be able to open it up to the rest of the group for questions and comments. So I suppose the background for everybody is that at the last webinar sort of update that we did, we made some commitments to the group on that. So we very much wanted to be about executing actions, very much about responsibility and accountability. So what I thought was the best place to start tonight was to give you an update on where we are against those commitments. So commitment one, and I have to say out of the 6 that we did, was probably the most difficult one, which was provide that channels of communication. With the wide sort of role that we've got in Glasgow and with the multiple channels that we've got, it's proved a bit of a challenge, and out of all the commitments I would say this is the one that's given us the biggest problem. So that's why underneath that I've got that this is a work in progress, and keen to try and get some feedback tonight which can help develop that and going forward. It's not to say that we've not communicated or we've not used some channels, but I would say that's the one that's given us the biggest challenge so far. Moving on to commitment 2.
Oh, we've lost your sound there, Stephen. A wee second, sorry. Can you start at commitment 2 again? Oh.
With Soil Association and held some events at City Chambers, and I'll talk about Soil Association later on in the presentation as well. Gillian and the team more recently had some excellent face-to-face meetings with pupils from across the city, both in terms of primary and secondary school. So many hundreds of pupils were in Glasgow City Chambers at events where we had a fantastic opportunity to present to the people led on that. You can see things there, mesh catering managers to participate on, how we build the menu, and the Food for Life Team Association has been probably our key partner over the last year. And I would urge anybody who's interested enough to go offline and just look at the Soil Association website, get more detail on the Food for Life. We'll certainly touch upon it tonight, but won't have time to go into great detail. And they've been a real enabler for us in terms of trying to develop our menu offering and really actually get some external and third-party accreditation. We work very closely with education. I would say we've got a very strong relationship with the leadership team in terms of Douglas Hutchison and his key team, and that's something that we're working with and going well. We've got the Glasgow Food Policy Partnership, and people will be aware that we've got the Glasgow City Food Plan and environmental working groups, and probably not on the slide, but within the months and years ahead, Scottish Government have passed some legislation for what's called a Good Food Nation Bill. And we will be very, very active on that as well. So there's been a lot of engagement with various channels, as you can see from the list there, and all have went well. So certainly in terms of the second commitment, that's been successful. Moving on, Leanne, if you can. So I suppose the one thing we wanted to do was be accessible, and commitment 3 was senior management team where possible, because again, in terms of the scale and size of the operation that we've got, we wanted to be available and be accessible. And that's not to say that your first protocol should be me or my team, because we've got local hierarchy in place in terms of catering managers, and they've got assistant managers and area managers who are pretty close to the front line and able to respond to any issues. So what I would say is that that's probably something where we can certainly commit to going forward. We've had requests for that, and certainly if you're not satisfied with what you're getting from the school, then please continue to request and get that issue resolved. We would expect everything to be resolved at a local level, but the team of people that are on here, the call tonight, and myself are available should there be continued issues. In terms of commitment 4, and remember we're probably coming out of a pandemic at the time, we've done a huge amount on staff training, thanks to Linda especially, who's led a lot on the food safety system. We've done a lot on medical referred diet uptake training, and that has been a key part of what we've done with catering assistants and catering managers over the recent weeks and months. We've opened ourselves up a little bit to some more scrutiny. I have invited our colleagues in the internal audit to come in and really test our food safety systems, test our allergen processes, and whilst that's been a positive, there's been areas that we can certainly work on. So we've very much tried to focus on staff training. We've given ourselves a staff training target, and with the many hundreds of people working in schools across catering, we will get round everybody. There'll be no staff member in a school who's not had the appropriate staff training that we need to give them. So that is a commitment that has went well. The seasonality training, which was carried out, again, looking back at that partnership that we've got with the Soil Association, again, that's been hugely successful. And I suppose what we're trying to demonstrate to everybody here on the call is that we're not here just marking our own homework. We're very much asking internal audit to come in and look at us, asking Soil Association and Food for Life to come in and help us out. So we're actually getting a lot of feedback and making sure that that's independent feedback. So that takes us up to commitment 4. On to the next slide, please, Leanne. I'm going to hand you over to Gillian, who's going to take you through the next 2 slides.
So if you contact us to say that you have a concern regarding our quality, we have a team of impartial auditors who will go out and on an unannounced visit. It'll be completely unannounced, and they will view the service and complete an audit. If there's actions that can be completed on that day, they certainly will be completed on the day. If it's an action, that needs to, that requires some time behind it, there will be a time scale also given, and we then check that all the actions have been completed. We take it very seriously when we when a concern is raised. And the other, please, don't, what we say to all our stakeholders is, let us know if you do have concerns, because we will do our utmost to resolve those concerns for you. One of the processes we have in place is for internal food safety audits, and Linda's going to pick that up now, and she's going to explain how we complete our internal food safety audit process.
Hi, with internal food safety audits, we have a legal obligation to ensure that all of our units are audited at least once a month internally by the area manager team. Now, that is also followed up by a member or 2 members of the food safety team who will go out and they will further audit to assess the actual auditors within our system so that we can demonstrate continuity and approach. We also are audited in part by environmental health. So on the whole, that is 3 different audits that can be carried out in any one unit just to make sure that we are fully compliant. If, as Gillian said, something is found out not to be compliant or maybe give us cause for concern within those audits, we actually set remedial action and we identify it and we specify a time for remediation. Now, what we can't do is we can't allow those times to be extended. So with food safety, it is very, very close, very, very short times for completion, almost immediately or within 7 days, depending on the severity of the non-compliance. Now, we take it very seriously and we provide management reports. We do KPIs, key performance indicators, and we also report to external parties such as environmental health. Now, I'm going to carry on to the health and nutrition inspections because it's all food linked. Within my role, as I said, I look at nutrition and I link directly with Her Majesty's inspectors, with the health and nutrition inspectors. Now, to provide information, provide menu analysis, provide all the nutrient details to allow them to carry out their inspection successfully. We have to ensure that every one of our premises is complying with the nutrient standards and complying with current legislation, and that governs every food item that we serve. There's set standards for foods and drinks, and that's what controls the food that we serve as well. We're very much governed and we have very tight constraints to work within. Thank you.
Jean is critical with the design of the new menus, and Jean is going to take you through the process that we completed to launch our new menu at the beginning of this current term.
Hi everybody. Just a wee story about the menu journey. This starts months in advance. We probably start about Christmas time, getting all the sort of beginning, the whole road for the new menu to start. So what we would do is we would speak to the catering team who are called the Think Fresh. So there's one member of each area that comes to the meeting. So we kind of start the ball rolling from there. We look at what's popular on the menu and what's not popular. We then try to take away the things that are not good or not popular and reinvent other things that are good. So even from the first meeting that we had here on the parent group, we tried to take as much information from that first meeting with everybody to try and implement that into the menu as well. You know, you've got different parts of the city who want different things from you. We've got the legislation that we need to follow. We've got food for life that we need to implement as well. So for us, there's a whole big section that needs to be thought about before the menu even gets to a stage where we're happy for that. So that's the kind of start place where we go. We then sort of try to agree a menu. The catering managers go back to their school, speak to the rest of the caterers within their area, speak to their head teachers, try and speak to any parent forums or any pupil councils within their school, get as much feedback, as much information from them as they can. They then bring it back to the group. So we have periodic meetings sort of every few weeks at this point, because all that information needs to come back, and we need to start then working on the menu, building it up, keeping in mind that we've got a nutritional guidance that we need to follow, and we've got the Soil Association Food for Life. So keeping all that within the menu can be a challenge at times, and trying to give everybody what they want. We do ask, you know, we try to sort of educate the kids that, you know, no, we're not want to put pie and chips on every day. We can't have that. So we try to keep everything as tight as we can by explaining to the children what the act is, giving them sort of a one-pager of the rules and the regulations to just make them feel that they understand why we can't have things and why we do have things. You know, within the regulations, there's, you're not allowed more than 3 lots of red meat in a week. So we've got to make sure that we're covering that. And within that, there's only 1 that can be a processed item. So again, that's just part of the journey to get to where we are. That's maybe all a bit kind of mad, but that is really where we go. So it's for months and months, and lots of steps and lots of speaking to other people. Loads of things happen before that menu is finally agreed. Speaking to suppliers, trying to get new products, looking at new recipes, looking at new ingredients, loads of things. Sorry, I think I went on a bit there. I'll leave you at that.
There's one additional point I want to make, and that is our interaction with Food for Life. When we create a new menu, we then have to put it forward to Food for Life, and they do a calculation on it. And the menu at the moment is currently 80% freshly prepared. And I think a lot of people have a preconceived idea that we use lots of processed products. We can't, because of the food and drink in schools regulations, but because we have the Bronze Award for Food for Life, we have to have at least 75% of our menu is freshly prepared, and we're actually sitting at 80% at the moment. So we feel that that's a real achievement, that we're sitting well above the standard required, the percentage required. I'm going to move on now to parent pay and cashless catering. That was a project that everybody round the table here committed to. It was a large project. It was the biggest transformation project that catering facilities management have taken on recently. It was a learning curve for us all, including our colleagues in education. We have learned lots of lessons from it. We know that there is some concern from parents regarding using the portal, the parent pay portal, and we have recently tweeted out an information video regarding the portal. And what we would ask is, if any parents do have any concerns regarding parent pay, please contact us, and we will support any requests where we can. We work in conjunction with parent pay, and we also work in conjunction with a company called SciPad, who when you actually go on to the parent pay site, where you'll see the menu selection, that's in conjunction with SciPad also. We are still, it's always a work in progress. Some of the feedback that we do get from parents is, if we have a supply chain issue, because of Glasgow, because of the size of Glasgow, we may have a supply chain issue in a certain area of the city, but the rest of the city is okay. Just to explain, the way that parent pay is set up, we cannot make any changes to a menu within 4 weeks. So it's a 4-week pre-selection cycle that you for selection for your child's meals. If we make any change to that menu within 4 weeks, all your pre-selections are wiped out at that point, and that's why we can't change menu items if there's a supply chain issue. And that's why we link with our colleagues in education to ask them to send out information to parents to say, today was supposed to be fish and chips, but it's going to actually be replaced with spaghetti bolognese, or whatever it's going to be. And that's the reason that we can't do it on the portal, is because we will wipe out all pre-selections. I'm going to move on now to slide 5, Leanne. This is about, you asked us, or we committed that we would evidence partnership, working and collaboration. As Stephen touched on previously, we met with the pupil councils in the city chambers. They met with the primary pupil councils on the 6th of March. It's 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And as Jean touched on, we presented them with the 14 standards that we need to comply with for the regulations. And it's quite interesting. We were expecting the pupils afterwards to still ask for the things like curry sauce and Chinese and things like that. And they were actually very, very good, the primary school pupil councils. They gave us lots and lots of information back. So we gave them working groups, we set them into working groups, and we asked questions, and we have compiled that information from it, and we will feed back to the pupil forum. As part of our commitment to the pupil forums, is we will feed back. So it was just slightly too late for the new menu that was issued in April, but we will take in all their points and see if we can incorporate them into a new menu, which we launched next April. We also met with the secondary pupils on the 7th of March, and that was very interesting. I didn't see how much education they actually have on what is healthy, but our challenge is actually getting the secondary pupils to engage with us for the secondary service. So that is a work in progress, and we will work closely with the pupil councils. Get lots of feedback on. We're going to actually go out to the schools and work with those pupil councils to engage with them. We also engage on a regular basis with Leanne. Stephen and I meet with Leanne, and we, if you lodge any concerns via Leanne, she will contact myself straight away, and it will be myself that will contact back the parent. So we have that dialogue going on with Leanne. As Stephen said, we have regular contact with our colleagues in education, and that's a two-way process. We look at ways of developing marketing of our school meals, etc., with our colleagues in education also. I have touched on previously procurement when I was introducing myself. That is a huge area for us for school meals. We have to have compliant products. We're always looking for new products as well. We know that children's tastes are changing. Children's taste develops all the time. They're away travelling, they're going to different countries, etc. So we have a very close working partnership with our procurement colleagues and with the suppliers. Because of the size of Glasgow and our buying power, we can actually ask the suppliers to do some research and development into new products. And a very good case in point for that was McCain Pizza. McCain actually developed a pizza that was compliant, and it's actually the pizza that you now buy out the shops. The standard pizza that you buy out in the supermarkets now is that product that we requested for it to be developed. The other very important area for the school meal service is about plastic reduction. As part of the procurement strategies, we very clearly we write into what's called the ITT, which is the document that's published out to suppliers to for them to then bid for the contracts. And part of that document absolutely goes into detail about how they will, what their sustainable policies are, how they will help us reduce plastic, will they come up with packaging and make sure it's recycled, etc., etc. So that's high in our agenda, is plastic reduction. Tailoring into that, recently I have been invited onto the Scottish Public Food Forum group, which gives Glasgow access to up-to-the-minute information regarding supply chain issues. It gives us up-to-the-minute information on, we're all affected by food inflation at the moment. It's quite worrying to know that since January, there's been 19.2% food inflation in prices. So we are getting up to the minute or monthly regular information regarding supply chain and potential price increases, etc., etc. We also have two partnership working groups with other local authorities, which is APSI and ASSIST. For ASSIST, we recognise that local authorities all are working within the same parameters for the food regulations, and we wanted to assist Glasgow being the biggest local authority. We like to do partnership working with other local authorities. So we are looking at a national menu template. We won't be following it to the letter if it doesn't suit the taste of Glasgow, but there will be a standardised national template so that you could see elements of menu items in Glasgow. You might see it in South Lanarkshire, you might see it in East Renfrewshire, etc. And we are an integral part of that working group for the national template. The other areas that we link closely with other local authorities, because of our experience of parent pay, lots of local authorities are now coming into work with parent pay. Very cool for our secondaries, we work with Very Cool. And as I said before, SIPAD, so Shetland, Dundee, South Ayrshire, etc., have all been contacting us recently to ask our experience of going on to the cashless system. We also link, if we have a question, we go to other local authorities, we draw down their experience, they draw down their experience, so we have very close working partnerships with other local authorities. Stephen, that's us on to slide 6.
Conscious of time, so I'll just fly through this one quickly. So I suppose the summary is that we feel that whilst we've not delivered on every commitment, we've got some partial success there. So some have went well, some not so well. So conscious of that. We will continue to stretch our targets and objectives. There is challenging circumstances out there that, you know, we won't bore you with. You know that things like food costs and issues and things like that are difficult for us. Consistency across the piece, across the state is another one, which is a difficult one for us, but we will continue to try and really stretch ourselves to make sure that we do our best and meet our objectives. We are, you know, we certainly feel that we're on a journey. We want to have a culture of continuous improvement. We're open to the feedback. Certainly I'm lucky that, you know, the team that I've got that are on the call tonight are extremely committed and passionate about the work that they do. So we've got a good team, but we certainly know that we are not perfect, and we're open to the feedback. But this is about all stakeholders. It's not just about me and the team. It's about our partners, our suppliers. It's about you guys, the parents, carers, the children themselves. We feel there's a collective here that we're all stakeholders need that. We need that input so that we can get to where we want to get to. So I'll close there, Leanne. Conscious that probably took a little bit longer than planned, but hopefully that was a run through of what we said the last time and gives a flavour, pardon the pun, of what we're trying to achieve going forward. So I'll pass over to you guys just to give us some feedback, questions, and either myself, Gillian, Linda or Jean can pick up with answers. Anything that we can't answer tonight, we'll take away and come back to.
Thanks, Stephen, and thanks everybody for giving up your time tonight. We really appreciate that. I just want to kind of chip in as well, because I know sometimes as parents and carers, it can feel like school meals are just a thing that happens to your pupils, but I can absolutely confirm that there is a lot of engagement between the team and Glasgow City Parents Group, and then I'll consult with my committee and feedback. I also listen to every parent that contacts me as well. That's where I will get my feedback from. But I just want to highlight to you also, whilst Gillian is more than happy to take any inquiry via me, which I really appreciate, your first port of call should definitely be your catering manager in school. I'm sure everybody's nodding their head. I'm sure they'll all agree that your catering manager is there to answer your questions and to work with you, and that's probably your best bet. It's probably the quickest way. And if you don't know who your catering manager is, just ask your head teacher and they'll be able to introduce you to them, because it might just be something that's happening in your school that can be easily fixed in your school rather than it being across the entire estate. And just another point to kind of take into this as well, remember across Glasgow we've got almost 300 schools. That's a lot of pupils. So we're never ever going to be able to keep every single one of those pupils happy every single day. But I can rest assured that the team are trying their hardest to make sure the majority is catered for and that they're continuously developing. So you know yourself, I've got a child, that's why I'm here, where one day they're waking up and they like tomatoes and the next day they don't, and it's really hard to navigate that. So I just want to say that the work that's been done in Glasgow compared to other local authorities that I hear, the amount of engagement, the amount of changes, the amount of development that's happening, I think the team do need to get credit for that. However, nothing's ever perfect and there's always room for improvement, and that's why we hold sessions like this. So Catherine, if there is any questions, feel free to fire away. And also, sorry, I'll just remind everybody, so if you want to ask a question, just look at your toolbar. So if you're on your mobile phone, you might need to swipe a certain way, wherever you would normally find your Zoom toolbar to mute yourself or turn your camera off and on. You'll see beside that there's a wee box that says Q&A. You can put your question in there and then Catherine's just about to read them out.
Okay, and I'm just going to take these in the order in which they came. So the first question, I won't read out the names just to protect everybody's identity here. But the first question is, do the portions cater for age groups? So do P1 eat the same as P7? So that's question one. Don't know who wants to take that one.
I'll answer that if you're happy with that. Okay, so there is a standard. We use a portion size for all children within a primary. So from primary 1 to primary 7, that portion, that carbohydrate, that protein weight is the same size. The reason we have the fruit, as much fruit, as much soup, as much bread, as much vegetables, is to allow the bigger children who could be so much more hungry, they will then take as much of that as they like. That way they're filling up on the right foods. So that's the reason. And then when you go to secondary, it's a bigger size. So you've got from 11 to 16, they're a different size altogether from the primary. So it's from primary 1 to primary 7, the protein, the carbohydrate size is the same, but they fill up on the good stuff, like their homemade soup, their bread, their fruit and their vegetables, if that helps.
Jean, I suppose this is maybe a good point to just remind everybody, like that difference whether you're on a free meal or a packed lunch, because that's a question that comes up all the time, like what's available for you. So maybe just as well as those kind of extra veg in that, if you just want to confirm like the extra stuff and the free stuff that you can get and who's entitled to it.
So for milk, every child in the school gets a carton of milk. So that's for whether you come to dinner school or whether you don't come to dinner school. We had an initiative there where there was free fruit every Wednesday, which came into play. Again, that was for every child in the school. The children that would take the fruit and the veg and the soup and is the children that go to the dinner school. So even if they get a free meal or they're entitled to like that primary 1 to primary 4 that has primary 5 that has the free meals or the universal and the free meals, they can take as much, even if they don't actually come to the dinner school. They just need to go up and use it because they are entitled to a free meal. For the older kids, if they're not entitled to a free meal, then that's a different sort of story altogether. They'll get their free milk.
Okay, I'm going to keep you there because I think this is not an unrelated question that's in next. Can you tell me why additional support needs high schools get a primary school menu and not a high school menu?
They get a sort of mixture of both, but their portions are secondary portions. The reason they can't get the full menu that a secondary gets is because there could be only 20 pupils within that school. if we put that whole menu on for the 20 pupils, the wastage would be humongous. So it's trying to find a happy balance between the two, but they do get the bigger size. So they get the secondary school sizes, and they get a few different, they get like pizzinis and things that secondary schools get that primary schools don't get.
I'm not sure if this one's for you, Jean, but I'll go on to the third. It's the only question that's on. So if people have got more questions, please get them onto the Q&A section. But the next one is, with this new menu, will the children get a chance to sample the new foods? It's difficult to choose the new food if they don't know what it might taste like.
Yes, that's something that could be set up in any school. Just again, if you speak to your head teacher, the head teacher can speak to the caterer. We can set up tasting sessions. So again, wee shots of the menu, but also any child can ask for a little bit of something. So if they're taking pizza and they want to try a paella, that's good. Let them try it. The catering manager will put a wee bit on their tray. So again, it's just that sort of conversation linking in with the people. So yes, that is something that can be done.
Yeah, and Catherine, let's emphasise that would actually be a great bit of a project for parent councils. So if you've got a parent council in your school, rather than maybe like one family approaching the school at a time, I would suggest that would be a great idea, maybe even before the end of the term, or maybe the start of next term, particularly for your new P1 intakes. Maybe you organise a wee tasting session with the catering manager and work with them. And again, that would help you with that bit of engagement with your parent council. So I think that would be a good idea to put in that direction.
Yeah, it usually happens for P1s. That happens every year, where the P1s, there's an open day, the parents come in, the children come in, and the catering manager, if a school want it, set up the tasting session and they can taste all the different parts of the menu.
Well, that's
so,
helpful to know, because I didn't know that. So actually we'll maybe put out like a wee comms in August or whatever to remind folk that that's what happens and stuff. So that's good to know, Jean, thanks.
Good.
Yeah. I think, you know, I'm really picking up that dealing with this at a local level is always best. You know, if there's problems, deal with them locally. It's always it's dealt with more, you know, quickly. And also with this, requesting things locally, I'm sure that a parent council could extend that beyond P1 to others in the school if they just worked with their catering manager locally. Right, we have a few more questions coming on. They're all coming on now. So again, I'll just keep taking them in the order. First one, can I ask what happens to the surplus free food, i.e. the cartons of milk and the fruit, etc. at the end of the day? Because you were, you know, commenting on trying to cut down on the waste.
But the likes of the, sorry, am I taking over here? Does anybody else want to come in? Or will I just go for it?
You're doing great. Just keep going. If you've got the answers, just keep going, Jean.
The milk and the fruit, the milk is in a fridge. So it's kept its temperature throughout the whole time. So if there's some left and the date's still there, that is used the next day. It's like in a supermarket. The old stock will go to the front, the new stock will go to the back. Any fruit, again, if it's fresh fruit, whole fruit, the whole fruit can stay out. So again, as long as there's no blemishes or anything wrong with it, that will be put out again the next day. So the likes for that, it won't go in the bin until it would be out of date, and hopefully it'll never get to that stage because you're rotating it all the time.
I suppose the other piece of key information for that as well is that our catering teams record what's called a product control sheet on a daily basis, so that they record all the food that they prepare and put out at the beginning of service. If they run out of a product, they record the time that it ran out as well, so they can then calculate what they'll need for the next rotation of that menu to ensure that they have enough. But they also then record the wastage, so that they then look at what they had wastage for that day and they reduce it for the fall, because it's really important. We view that reducing food waste is a really important aspect of the catering manager's job. So we have these product control sheets. And that is one of the ways that we check when we get an inquiry from a parent to say that their child hasn't got, that we ran out of food, etc. That is one of our control measures, is this product control sheet. We will go in and assess at least a month of these product control sheets to form a picture of what's happening within that school.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next one. And it's about why pasta and other meals have sauce and this is not optional.
So are they asking for
Yeah,
it to be on its own?
I think that's what they're looking for. It's, you know, I've just read the question as it is. It's that why it's got sauce and it's not optional. And, you know, having been in a school today and I actually saw a child with noodles that had no sauce, you know, because one of the teachers was saying, why didn't you take the sauce that goes with them? But the child actually had some plain noodles. So I'm not sure what the position is. It seems to be about pasta coming with sauce and not the option to have it without.
The likes of that's a worry because they should be getting their protein with that, with the noodles. So for me, that is triggering a warning sign that the child then is just getting pasta with no vegetables.
Intervene there? It could be that it's a on-site diet request for a child with texture difficulties, etc. So that might be an isolated case for that particular pupil. I think what Jean was.
It was in this case.
That's an on-site diet request. So that's potentially children that's on the spectrum disorder, etc. So that's a diet request at that point. I suppose we don't serve the sauce and the pasta separately because that means that potentially the child will be having just the carbohydrate, whereas the sauce is full of vegetables. So it's a tomato sauce, there's hidden vegetables within that sauce as well. So we have to commit to the Scottish Government guidance about the volume of fruit and vegetables that we serve with a meal. And part of that is the sauce will have these hidden vegetables in them to ensure that we are complying with the Scottish Government's guidance for the nutritional standards for that day. I suppose the other thing to just make everybody aware of is that we do a daily nutritional analysis of our menu, but we also complete a weekly nutritional analysis to ensure that we hit all the nutrient standards. And that analysis is then submitted to the health and nutrition inspectors as well to ensure compliance. So we are audited all the way through with our menu design to ensure that we're complying with the Scottish standards, Scottish Government standards.
Okay.
That's a good point though, because it might be that that's something we need to look at and keep, you know, make some sort of dish that the pasta's maybe separate and put the veg into the kind of main side and keep it separate. So it could be something that we could look at for the next menu if that's something that the parent or the child really wants. We've just never been asked for it before to be separate like that.
Okay, I'll move on. I think the next question I probably know I'll ask the question, but I'll state what I think my understanding was of this when you answered it. Somebody said, surely additional support needs high school children have the right to an adult menu as some of the children are bigger than the teachers. If waste is the issue, this must be the case in schools with smaller numbers too. What I took from that was that you were offering the primary menu because you weren't able to offer the full extent of what's on a secondary menu, but they were receiving appropriate sized portions. Is that
absolutely? You're 100% right. It's just the amount of stuff it's on. You could have 20 different choices in a standard secondary school. We couldn't put 20 choices on in a school where there's only 20 kids. You know, all that waste would go. So, but they do get the portion. They get a full portion and they still can take as much fruit, veg, soup and bread as they like.
Yes, thank you. Okay, there's a couple of questions here about parent pay. I'll take the two of them together, although they're not, you know, they aren't necessarily related. There's somebody asking, can you tell us when the photos will be uploaded onto parent pay of the new menu item meals, as this helps younger children to see the food when choosing? And then I'll just ask the other one that somebody has posed of, with regards to parent pay, what are the rough percentages of schools who are pre-ordering?
Okay, so I'll take that. We had a glitch with some of the photographs that had to be uploaded. They are in the process of being retaken. There was an issue with some of the shots, so that we are waiting for those photographs to be resubmitted and they will be uploaded in the back. That uploading a photograph doesn't affect the pre-ordering the way changing the actual menu does. So that will happen in the next few weeks. Percentages of uptake for pre-order varies throughout the city. What we don't have at the moment is the ability to analyse the pre-selection from home and the pre-selection that's happening in class. What we have is an overall percentage of pre-selection. We know that for some schools, the pre-selection for parents is high and not so much pre-selection in classroom. And then we know for some schools, and it's just dialogue with the school, that the school are doing the mop-up sessions. So it varies throughout the city.
Thank you. I'll go on to, there's 2 more questions on. Oh, 3, they're popping up. The next one.
Catherine, can I just jump in and say we'll take those 3 folks and then we'll cut it there because it'll be a hard stop at kind of 8. So no more questions after those 3, thanks.
Okay, so we've got one here about dairy allergies and intolerance. Why is there no oat alternative that can be given?
Linda, can you take this one?
Sorry, I'll take that one. We do have a number of milk allergies, sorry, daily, can't even speak tonight, I do apologise. But I can confirm that we do have alternatives to milk already in place. We have a soya-based alternative and we have an oat-based alternative. So we just need to make sure when a medical diet is requested, the catering manager liaises directly with the head teacher, etc., and they can order in these products if identified. We will only agree a milk substitute on agreement with the parent.
Okay, thank you. I think I got you. I think we were both saying dairy. It was me that got you doing that. Okay, the final 2 questions. So I think this is one for Stephen. At the session in October 2021, Stephen mentioned that every school will have a cooking kitchen. Is that still the plan?
So yeah, I think there's a bit of a moving feast on that. What I can say to everybody is that we are in active dialogue with the Scottish Government about the rollout of the universal free school meals. I think at the time of this first meeting that we had, it was very much about launching in August 2022, believe it or not, about going to universal free school meals. That's now changed, where the Scottish Government have decided that the rollout will take place in March 2026. Primary 6 to primary 7, for those that are eligible, through, I think, receiving the Scottish Child Payment, will be able to get free school meals from August 23. So the reason I'm saying it's a bit of a moving feast is it's very much dependent on the funding that they get from the Scottish Government. We have had some funding, which has already been given to Glasgow City Council, as with all other local authorities, and we're actively in the process of looking at where we need to spend that. It is about making sure that we invest in the equipment in all of our schools. We've also got what's called Cook Freeze, which is our kind of factory, which is our central production unit. And we're very much looking at investing a lot of money in that area as well. Now, it's fair to say we need more funding than has really been given, but that's the same again for every local authority. It is about making sure that we spend it wisely. So what I can say is that we will be investing in equipment in every single school kitchen, as well as our central production unit. But that will take time because the funding will be drip fed from this year and then every other financial year through to the point of March 2026. So we will be sending out a lot more communication about that. It is still early stages. I've got a meeting with Scottish Government on the 11th of May that I've been invited to. So I should be able to get more information after that.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. And the final question, I think we've got 2 minutes to answer this one before Leanne's stops us at 8. You've been talking about soups, but I don't remember many days with a soup option for primary. Are they an option every day?
Yes, they should be. And if they're not, tell me the school and I'll speak to them.
Yeah, and Maria, because if you look at the menu, it doesn't actually, it's not in the grid, but up on, if I remember right, the top right corner of the menu, yeah. I think you're all nodding, it says fresh homemade soup daily or something along those lines. So that's how you know that it is available. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. So good timing. Thanks everybody. I think we probably could have gone on because it is a hot topic across the city, and I absolutely appreciate where parents are coming from, because your main concern is my child going to go to school and have a good meal that's going to fill them up all day? I think the team are certainly like doing all they can to make sure that happens, and if it doesn't happen, they want to hear about it. But there is always going to be those odd wee times, like if a child goes in and ends up picking something else, or maybe like that, like walks away with just noodles and it slips past and nobody notices. These little blips do happen, so please don't let little blips like that, or blips that you hear from other parents, put you off ordering your child's food for the school. Take advantage of the fact that you have that universal free offer. We're starting to see a dip in children not taking advantage of that, and I think particularly during this cost of living crisis, we're all starting to feel the pinch. So why would you want to spend like a lot more money on additional packed lunches and food if your child has an option there? You've obviously heard tonight that there is the option for children to taste foods, try and get them to encourage them to try new foods as well if there's nothing on the menu that suits. But it's always going to be a challenge. Like I said, we're never going to be able to please everybody all of the time. There's just not that capacity with the amount of pupils that we've got. But I hope from tonight's session, you can see that the team are really working towards that, and that they're really open to feedback as well. So we'll keep continue to working with them. Hopefully we'll run something else similar like this, maybe this time next year or something. And if you've got any questions that weren't answered tonight that you maybe want me to pass on, feel free to contact me and I can get those answers for you as well. So remember tonight.